Good evening, guys. Glad to be here. Rockin' K 2.0. Man, it's turned off a little warm here. Wind blowing a little less than it was yesterday. We're at 25, 30 miles an hour. You know, most of where we're at right here, kind of halfway between Fort Worth and Abilene, a little south of I-20. Most of the weather situations are, all the stuff kind of starts here. It's kind of neat to watch. We have a beautiful house on the hill and great view 360. And man, I can see every system regardless of where it's coming from to come in here. And so it's kind of neat to watch it. But my hearts and prayers are out to you guys out east that experienced all that bad storms last night. Worst time it could ever come through is at night and stuff like that. I don't wish that on anybody. But God help y'all and hope you recover and everything. Hope everybody that's watching this is okay. Would like to say right off the bat before we get started, my wife's birthday is next Saturday, not this coming, but the week after, May 2nd. And it's on a Saturday, and Saturdays are hard to come by, especially you're getting older, having your birthdays on Saturday. So, you guys, I'm inviting all of you to come out because we're in a rural area. I don't have a spirit of fear. What they're telling us is fake. I'll just say that right up front. This is less dangerous and less deadly than the flu. You just got to do the numbers. They're out there. I don't care if anybody disagrees with me. Look it up. Do the research yourself. Quit looking into all the media and that kind of stuff. I hate to start this way, but that's all I see is everybody scared and feared. I do not fear it. I fear the wrath of God. And because I'm a child of God, I don't have to fear that. And so I just wanted to put that out front. And man, I would love to see anybody like to come out and stay the weekend. It'd be great, or just spend the night. We'll put pallets on the floor like we did at Grandmother Kirk's a long time ago. Whatever y'all want to do, if you want to get out, like I say, we live in the middle of nowhere. If you do have any kind of fear, it'll be gone by the time you leave here, I promise you. So I don't care who you are watching this. If y'all want to come out and celebrate my wife's birthday, we sure would appreciate it. I know she would. You're very welcome. So you can contact me through this or, anything you want and let me know if you're coming because we'd love to have you. And that's May 2nd. Most of this is going to be out in the open and the truth come out about it. And a lot of the states are going to be opening up in different areas by then anyway. So like I said, this is the year of 2020 perfect vision. The Lord's given me perfect vision on a lot of this stuff. And it's not as bad as everybody says it is. So that said, we're here to pay tribute to my brother. Roger, and been talking about road trips and that kind of thing, and there's a lot of more road trips, but I kind of want to change directions here and kind of focus on some stories about his love of animals, particularly horses and dogs. Roger, ironically, the way he died wasn't right, and I wouldn't wish that on anybody, regardless if I didn't like him or not. That's a cruel way. But, and it's ironic that he loved animals so much that's the way it had to be. Don't ask me. It's a crazy world. But, he loved horses also. And I would consider him, especially in his older age, as a horse whisperer. Now, when we were kids, matter of fact, my Charlotte Bollinger Izzo, her dad was like my dad's best friend. Kind of like Mike and I and Cliff and Scott and cousins. They were cousins, but we all called him Uncle because he was always around, Uncle Devo. And they had a bet. Devo bet Dad, after he got married, that his first child would be a girl. And Dad took him up on it. And I don't know, I think my dad bet him $100, and this is, 50s. Actually 40s, 1949, because Roger's born in 50. So I don't actually know when they made the bet, but they made the bet after my dad got married. And my mom, yeah, she was in there too. So anyway, they made the bet, and my dad and my uncle said, if it's a boy, I'll give you a horse. I'll give him a horse. And I think back in that day, horses were worth way more bartering power than money. Seriously, especially that crowd that just came grew up and came out of the Depression. So sure enough, it's a boy. So he's got to give my dad a horse. So he gives him one. I forget that one's name. I don't think it was original, but it might have been. I don't think it was. I think I remember them. Oh no, that was a calf called Snowball. He used to jump off the barn onto his back. Is how gentle Snowball was. But anyway, and it could have been the horse my uncle gave my dad, because the next thing I remember, we're living in Mena. My dad is a recruiter. We bought a place out in the country, or rented a place out in the country that it was probably 5 acres or more, something like that, all fenced in. And Roger had his horse Tony, which was a Shetland. I believe he was a stud, and maybe they cut him. I can't remember. But then Dad bought me one called Red Ribbon. Mine was a Welch, and Roger's was a Shetland. And it might have been a Shetland cross, but his was a paint, and it was beautiful. So there were many, many times, even though mine was red, I was a Lone Ranger and he was Tano automatically, because he had the spotted horse, the paint, and he rode it with no saddle. That was a riding son of a gun. They stuck me on the saddle. I got a hold of the saddle horn, I got the reins, and I'm scared to death. It took me a long time to overcome the fear of horses. I wasn't like my dad, my younger brother, and Roger. They just went to them like no fear, no nothing. Rode them without saddles, and there's some stories about my little brother. He was probably the best horseman of the bunch. My dad was very good, but my little brother was amazing. But Roger rode horses very well and did good, and I think he kind of lost his desire of riding. I was young. And I can remember before we moved out into the one with the big acres, before I got my horse, they had his horse tied up to a swing set, and I witnessed it. He was told many, many times, don't walk behind the horse. And so they had him tied up and were combing him and that kind of stuff. And Roger and he wasn't that close, but he walked behind him, and the horse, both legs jumped up and popped him right in the chest. Knocked him a long ways, and I thought it killed him. But he is the toughest guy I ever met in my life. He got up, he had a big shoe print there forever. I don't know how it didn't kill him. And then as we went on to the other place, I remember waking up from a nap. My mom is doctoring him up, and he's got bites on him and a couple of shoe prints on the shoulders and stuff like that. I think he had one on his cheek. They had it tied up out back, and Roger's horse Tony. And Shetlands are known to get mean. And when he couldn't get loose, he got mad. And Roger went out to untangle him, and he jumped him. He literally bit him and all kinds of stuff and stomped him. And, my mom made my dad sell the horse, and I think he eventually sold mine too. But that didn't stop him from loving him. He didn't. And I can remember him, many, many times with people with horses saying, oh, don't go near that horse. And Roger would just ease his way out there and just slowly run up there and run his hand on his neck. You never saw the horse, because my dad always said, the horse's ears go back, there's a problem. So you need to be wary. And but never with Roger. Those horses' ears never went back. He just had that gentleness about him. I think he had that Cherokee blood in him, that he was a horseman and loved them. He would love them up and whisper them, and carrots and sugar cubes. And his love for animals and children were phenomenal. They really were. He always had a dog, one way or the other. I can remember Bonnie and I got married, and we're living in an apartment in Austin, and he came to stay with us, and he had a dog named Blackie. I said, "Where'd you get that?" He goes, "I don't know. Somebody gave it to him." And he was a cool dog. His name was Blackie, and he just stayed on the back porch, and Roger would love on him. But he had several dogs like that. Prince was his best dog of all time. We grew up in the era of Rin Tin Tin and Lassie and Lassie, and Bullet was another one. Bullet was Roy Rogers' dog. So there were a lot of dogs in the shows that there weren't many shows on, especially kid shows. But those were shows I grew up with him watching, and we were always playing Rin Tin Tin or Lassie. And Prince was a red collie, full blood. I mean, and you're talking about, he was a male Lassie. Matter of fact, if I'm not mistaken, Lassie was a girl, and they called him a boy. Come on, boy. I mean, don't ask me why they did that. I guess it was the male chauvinist stuff going on back then. But anyway, Prince was a dog that was loyal. He'd protect us. I mean, people would come up to us, and animals have a sense about people. And if they didn't like them he never was vicious, but he'd let you know, don't trust this guy. That's how good of a dog he was. He really was. I remember, man, I could just, I was a little bitty, and I put my arm up on him. He's a pretty big dog. And he would play fetch, and he loved to grab Roger's pant leg and play tug of war with his leg and stuff like that. And Prince went with Roger everywhere. That's my first recollection of him being that loyal, and a dog being loyal to him, and loving that animal like that. He was just a sweetheart. And even later on, he had some dogs that he tried to make that, and they just didn't work out. But he always, some way, had some dog that he pull off the streets or hanging out, and he was a rescue guy, and he would hold them and keep them as long as possible. And then they go about their way, and Roger would go about his way. One free spirit to the other. Like, hey, I've had enough here. Your grits and and your coffee grounds aren't enough for me to eat. I'm moving on. Yeah, and his love of children was that way. Like I was telling you, Maria Stain was telling me how he taught them to get on children's level. And he taught my daughter that. And to this day, my daughter loves kids, works with children big time. And that's how she does it. She doesn't talk from up top. She gets down on their level. And, that's a tribute to my brother, because he taught her that. And just reminiscing on that kind of stuff, and just the love he really, like I said, if he loved you deeply. Now, he may have gone off on one of his tangents, and whatever caused that, who knows? It could be any number of things. You guys know him, you know what I'm talking about. So, that was the only, the curtain drew, and then, he'd be somewhere else for a while, but he'd always return to that, and he was very emotional. I mean, probably the most emotional person I've ever seen. He could cut that off. He could go from crying to like serious like that. But I don't think his emotions were fake. I think they were real. We're all emotional creatures. Those are memories that I remember with my brother that were just sweet. And I think this is a good night for that, for sweetness. That's what we called my little brother. Of course, Roger had a lot of influence on him. Bobby was sweetness, So, with that said, Roger's love of children and love of animals, like I said, Scripture talks about if you have love, you have God. And if you don't have love, you don't have God. So I'm just looking for proofs here. And you know what I'm saying? So, and confirmation. So you can't have that without having God in your life or having God in your heart, because there's a lot of hate out there. And it's a shame. It really is. But that's life on planet Earth. It's the way it goes. But yeah, there's just so much to talk about, and I really think we're all going to be able to get together here pretty soon. this thing is going to pass, and I think when we look back on it, it's going to be one of those. There's a couple of entities trying to push us one way or the other, and you know, just think logically, think for yourself, and don't take everybody's word for it. You know, investigate. There's ways to investigate things without having to just listen to one person or watch what my dad called the idiot box. My dad would walk by a TV when we were young watching it, and he would just shake his head, and we go, "What?" And he goes, and this is where he came from. He goes, "You guys would miss a crop watching that thing." And he would watch football, and it usually wasn't the whole game; it'd be the second half, especially Arkansas Razorbacks. And he would watch John Wayne movies and Western movies and things that were true stories. Other than that, he had no desire to get in front of it. And I think that's a downfall on all of us, that we sit and watch this idiot box that can put subliminal messages in your mind and make you think things that aren't real are. And so, you know, I've been there before. Back in the early 2000s, I sold every television in our house, and we got along. I mean, it was unbelievable. I'd listen to the Longhorn football on the radio, and I wasn't glued to the television, and someone would try to get my attention, and I'd go, wait, they're about to snap the ball. I would, he was on the radio, and I could hear it, and I'd just turn and go, "Yeah, what's up?" And then the crowd would roar, and he'd go, touchdown. I go, "Awesome." You know, you weren't preoccupied. And you were aware of people around you. When you're doing something to the fact that the loved ones around you, even if they kind of holler at you and you're not paying attention because you're so glued to something else, there's a problem with that. That's why I think we can take this whole at-home thing and keep it there. You know, we can go out and we can communicate and we can socialize. We'll be able to do that. We can go to work, but we need to not forget the home, because that's what the one world order wants you to forget: the home. They want you to forget that you have loved ones and that you take care of each other. They want you to believe that they're the government and they can take care of you, and that's just so further from the truth. It's ridiculous. Like I said, United States of America, greatest nation to ever walk and talk, and we're back. I promise you, and we'll be back stronger than ever. Mark my words. This isn't going to take us out and put us down. This is going to make us stronger. Just like Scripture says, count on all joy when trials and tribulations come your way, because they make you stronger and they bring you closer together and closer to the Lord. So remember that. I know my brother, and he would want that to happen. And so we'll work on this together. And I love you guys. Like I said, I love people, especially. My son said, "Dad, I played on teams, we never won a championship. We're always second best, or we were always the runner-up for whatever reason. And so I was an underdog sucker bait, you might say. And so I'd get emotional about underdogs. And when I coached, and even when I was over people supervising, I always kept an eye on the underdog and no one paid attention to, and the hard worker. And the one that improved and tried to improve and wasn't a natural, if you know what I'm talking about. And I always made sure they got extra kudos at the end of the day, or at the end of the month, or at the end of the year. And I did it in front of everybody. And I would get emotional about that, because that's where I was. I didn't get those from people. I just got put down. "Oh, you second, you're a loser." Well, you know what? I never quit. That's a fact. And I never will quit. I won't quit on you. I won't quit on my family. I won't quit on my friends. I won't quit on my belief in God, in this nation, in the Lord Jesus Christ. I will not quit. So, love you guys. Peace be with you. I'll see you tomorrow evening. a little, I played it once before, kind of a little bit, but you get up and you feel these things. And this morning was one of those days. And it's Mean Old Walking Blues. Woke up this morning, look around for my shoes. You know I had them mean old walking blues. I woke up this morning, looked around for my shoes. You know I had the mean old walking blues. One shoe had a hole in it, the other one was tied. It was wet outside, but I had to take a walk in them mean old walking shoes. 'Cause I woke up this morning with a mean old walking blues. You know what I mean? You're trapped in the house, you gotta get out. Yeah, the mean old walking